Hey everyone, welcome to Encore, and today I'm going to give you guys some tips on how you can resolve some of your mineral makeup mess issues. Hey everyone, welcome back. So many of you are now transitioning to a healthier approach to your makeup, and many of you guys are using mineral makeup. And I know, and everyone knows, that mineral makeup can be messy, and it's because, the powders are finer, they're a lot more jet milled, and therefore that's going to get all over the place, pretty much, whether you tighten like the cap and stuff, the powders are still so fine that it'll still get into the rim. And most of the time, the caps and those jars are not really airtight, and therefore you'll get powders around the rim and around the thread of the jar top and the cap. So therefore, sometimes when you open it, you'll get powder all over the place. Unfortunately, that is just something we will have to deal with until these companies invest a little bit more money on packaging that has a little bit more of an airtight design to their caps. But until then, I have a few tips for you guys to minimize the mess that mineral makeup makes. So the first tip I'm going to give you is that when you get your mineral makeup, say you bought foundation per se, and it comes in these 20 or 30 gram jars. Alright, the first thing you're going to notice when you take the cap off is what? This seal right here, right? The sifter cover. It's a clear plastic. And what is the first thing you do? You remove it. Once you remove it, that's when mess begins, okay? And much like this one right here, which I removed the seal, when you open it, you'll see, like all the powders are, you see that kind of like puff of smoke in there when I opened it? And it's messy inside, it's messy on the cap, it's messy around the rim, and that's going to get into your counters, all over your vanity, or wherever you do your makeup. So, my very first tip is when you open your brand new jar of mineral makeup, say foundation, do not remove that seal, okay? And what you want to do is take a push pin or a safety pin, alright? And you wanted to puncture just 2 holes. Start with 2, okay? And then add another hole if you think it's going to need more. What's going to happen is that it's going to give you a little bit more control on the amount of powder that's going to sift through the sifter, okay? So just do 2 or maybe 3, maybe 4 on a large packaging like this if it's a mineral foundation. And that's going to give you a little bit more control. Now, when you are applying it, all you need to do is actually just use the cap, alright, and then just tap it upside down just like that, alright, and work from your cap. Tip number 2, when you're working on the cap and you're using a buffer brush, per se, like a kabuki brush or a mineral brush, alright, what's the first thing you do? You do the rule of thumb, right, which you do the swirl and the tap, and then you buff, alright? So, my second tip is that what you want to do is you swirl, alright? But instead of tapping it, because what happens, like if you tap it like this, again, puff of powder all over, and that's going to get to your counters and your vanities and wherever you do your makeup. So, what you want to do is you want to swirl, alright? And then instead of tapping, alright, you want to hold your brush upside down, just like this. And just use the back of your hand and tap it upside down, so that way those powders are going to fall right into the trunk of the bristles, okay, the body of the bristles, as opposed to falling off all over, alright? So just tap it lightly like that, alright, and all the powders, the extra powders, are going to fall off right into the trunk or the body of the brush, and then therefore it's not going to go to waste, and then buff and apply it as normal, okay? Alright, so another tip is like when you do this method, what you want to do is you just wanted to get enough powder right into the container or in the cap that you're going to need to use to cover your face, alright? And then my third tip is that when you are ready and you're done, okay, use these little like cotton face wipes, like a cotton, like for makeup removing and stuff, alright? And what you want to do is you just kind of wanted to press it right inside, alright, the jar, just like that, okay? And what's going to happen is that the cotton is going to kind of like block those holes that you punctured, so that way the powder doesn't sift out, alright? And then just replace your cap, nice and tight, and then that cotton is basically going to stay in there and it's not going to move, and therefore it's not going to cause the powder to like get all over the place. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about eyeshadows, because a lot of you guys uses mineralized eyeshadows, okay? So when you get your eyeshadows, again, you're going to get like a sifter seal. Of course, same exact thing, do not remove that seal, alright? And what you want to do is you just want to start puncturing just one hole. Start with just one hole, alright? And two, maybe, alright? And that's going to give you a little bit more control of the powder that's going to come out of the mineral makeup, the 5-gram jars or 10-gram jars, whatever packaging your eyeshadow comes in. Okay, and much like I explained earlier, if you're using mineral eyeshadow and you're applying it with a brush, same thing, don't swirl and tap it right onto the container or the cover, wherever you're using it. Cover is ideal because it's a little bit more sanitary. Now, mineral powder by nature is really so dry that bacteria do not survive in them a long time. That's why they have a longer shelf life, okay? They don't, almost like really rule of thumb, mineral makeup don't expire. It doesn't have an expiration, okay? It's got a suggested discard date, which is like 4 years to 5 years, but in reality they do not expire because nature of mineral powders that bacteria don't survive in them that long. Alright, but what happens, like, your brushes will pick up oils from your skin, okay? And the oils from your skin contain sebum bacteria. And that's pretty much what's kind of like, they're not going to survive in the powders, but they are going to survive in the containers, okay? So if you are using like a cap, alright, after you use it, make sure you wipe it, alright, or sanitize it every now and then, so that way those sebum bacteria doesn't really colonize the cap, alright? But the powder itself you don't have to worry about. So the same thing if you're using an eyeshadow brush, do not swirl and tap, but instead, you know, just use the back of your hand and tap your brush a little bit, just a couple of taps like that, so that way the powder falls right into the body or the trunk of the bristles, and therefore you can apply your eyeshadow that way. Now, for smaller packaging, like a 5-gram jar, I usually like using cotton balls, okay, just like this one. And if it's like too fluffy, like this one, you can take some off, okay, just like that, and then just kind of like roll it in a bowl. Make sure you have nice clean hands when you're doing this. And then again, put it right on the top, and that's going to prevent the powder from sifting right through the holes that you punctured. And then replace the cover, and then just make sure that it's just nice and tight. Okay, so that way you're not going to get any powder, so it's going to sift out and get to the rim and the thread of the jar, and therefore going to cause any mess later on. Okay, so hopefully those are useful tips for those of you guys who are mineral makeup users, so that way you can control a little bit of the mess part that the mineral makeup causes when you're applying makeup. And thank you so much for joining me, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so, and join me next time. I'll see you guys soon. Bye!